Hello and welcome to Verily's first ever episode of While You Were Out voice message. We have decided to dip our toes into audio at Verily, and we know that there's been a lot of call for us to have a podcast or do different forms of multimedia, which we are eager to do. But this is our first foray into this arena in a long time. So I'm Mary Rose Somarriba, editor-in-chief of Verily Magazine, and with me is our associate editor, Maggie Brady, Margaret Brady from her byline. Many of you know her. And she's sitting here with me. We're in Cleveland.
Hi, Mary Rose. I'm so excited to do this with you.
I'm so happy to be here with you too, Maggie, and to share some of the news from this past week. While You're Out is the name of our news roundup we have weekly. Usually comes out right before the weekend, and we are trying out a new method of sharing these little news bits with you. Let's just jump into it. We have a couple interesting news bits this week. Let's start with the Met Gala. Speaking of women's magazines, Vogue magazine has their annual gala for the Fashion Institute on the first Monday in May, and that just happened this week. Of course, it's always known for outrageous outfits and all sorts of theatrics, but tell me what the theme was.
Right. So the theme this year was the Garden of Time, Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. And it's based on a story by J.G. Ballard, who was a science fiction writer. And basically, this story he wrote called The Garden of Time is about this count and a countess. They live in a beautiful villa, very luxuriously, playing Mozart on the harp and reading rare books. But every night they can see across their lawn a mob advancing toward them, complete with pitchforks. They're coming to get them. Every night they go out into their garden of like these glass flowers and pick one of the flowers. And when they do that, it's like a rewind. The mob gets pushed back to the horizon line and they get to live another day. But the garden is dying, and both the Count and Countess know it. So eventually they pick the last flower, and the mob comes and takes over their villa, but they find the Count and Countess are long gone. There's just two statues of them there. The harp has been turned into firewood. So it's kind of this sort of Sleeping Beauty. When the prince shows up, the castle is decrepit. It's all destroyed. But it's kind of ironic as I was looking at all these pictures of the celebrities in their gowns. This is kind of a story about rich people trying to keep at bay the consequences of their actions. I was kind of interested in it as a selection for a theme for the Met Gala.
The Met Gala is filled with all this excess. We have a lot of very wealthy people, excessively gaudy outfits, and a lot of bouginess happening. The short story that they based their theme on is not so friendly with that concept. So that was sort of interesting choice.
Right, kind of a meta commentary from whoever picked the theme.
Yeah. Okay, well, some of the outfits.
So some of them were gorgeous. I mean, there's always some celebrities who hit it out of the park, even if they're not exactly on theme. I saw Penelope Cruz. She had this beautiful black Chanel ball gown off the shoulder, classic silhouette. I saw Nicole Kidman had a Balenciaga. That was gorgeous. Pamela Anderson was there, and she had a lovely dress. She has been on a makeup-free kick, showing up at a lot of places without any makeup on. But this time she did put a little bit of a light, fresh makeup on her face.
A little minimalist, natural look. And I love those natural looks. That's what I love to do myself. And I know a lot of our readers like that too. We're trying to just accentuate our natural uniqueness. And some of us aren't ready to go completely makeup free. But I certainly do many days myself. And that reminded me of Pamela Anderson in 2016. She wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal when she came out against pornography. And I remember at the time, some people were saying, of all people, Pamela Anderson speaking out against pornography, please. And I said, no, exactly. Like
Yeah,
she's the one who we should be listening to.
100%.
She's a human being who was in this kind of content, and she is coming out alive, survived it to tell us it's not good. I thought that was brave of her and very cool. We wrote about it at the time at Verily. You can Google it, but I think it was called "Why Pamela Anderson's Stance on Porn Isn't as Surprising as You Think," and she's just not ignoring the realities there, and that's what I thought that was very cool. Some unfortunate trends at the Met Gala, as fashion wise. There were some very tight waists. Yeah, Kim Kardashian. She was. Can you tell me what it was called again? The cinch or snatched.
Yeah, snatched waist, like almost like a wasp waist. Her, she mentions that she has a heart, like it's an art to breathe in this outfit. Breathe and talk, and it's not really. I mean, she looks great in it, but it's not the message.
What was concerning the most to me is the sense of like I can hardly talk in this, or I can hardly breathe, where I'm actually hurting myself in order to look a certain way, and I think that's going backwards a bit in the direction of women's sartorial choices. We at Verily, we believe, and I don't want to criticize anyone's personal choice at a costume kind of gala, but I do want to say the trend is concerning to me, because if it becomes one, I hope it just goes off in the wind now after this event. If it were to be a trend, it would be concerning, because we women, we don't want to be just all about looks. We want to have room to speak. That's a big part of sharing our intelligence, our brain, our soul. We're much more than just looking a certain way, and it can be problematic when we go in that direction of hurting ourselves for looks, because that's dehumanizing. And yeah, the whole problem with objectification, somewhat related, the whole pageantry culture that we've had for a long time, with literal pageants, like Miss America, Miss USA. Well, there was a lot of news this week about Miss USA. While they do include different aspects of the competition besides looks, it's no secret that looks are a major part. It appears that standing up and using those looks for different aspects of the role of Miss USA and can be challenging, because this week the Miss USA resigned. Is that what it or?
Yeah. So first, Miss USA, Noelia Voigt, she resigned from her. She gave up her crown, citing her mental health. She said, "In life, I strongly value the importance of making decisions that feel best for you and your mental health." She put out a statement on Instagram, and users or her fans noticed when they looked at her statement, the first letter in each sentence of her statement spelled "I am silenced." And then a couple days after that, Miss Teen USA, Uma Sofre Srivastava, hope I pronounced that correctly, she resigned. And she said her values no longer align with the organization. On top of that, the Miss USA social media director, she's named Claudia Michel, she posted on Instagram that she resigned from her role. And she said, "I feel the way current management speaks about their title holders is unprofessional and inappropriate. I disavow workplace toxicity and bullying of any kind." And she highlighted the "I am silenced" post. There's not really many details out there about what exactly are the allegations about the Miss USA organization. Like, clearly it has something to do with workplace problems, but they are in turmoil right now on all cylinders, both Miss USA and Miss Teen USA.
I mean, that's very, very telling. And whether at first I thought, I don't know what it's related to, but hey, if she's standing up for her mental health, I stand with her. No one ever supports leaving a job as like leaving people high and dry. But if you need to do something for mental health, you do it. So I don't know if it was like one then the other, like dominoes, or if it was the reaction from the higher ups that led the social media person to move on. But in any case, I just want to encourage people to always prioritize your mental health, and with support, make the best decisions for yourself, and do it as respectfully as you can. The reason this is serious to me is because in 2022, a former Miss USA, Chesley Christ, died by suicide, and that was tragic. I remember because Krisha Lakito, our longtime lifestyle editor, shared a personal piece commenting on that. She was a former Miss America title holder. Krisha was in her own local capacity, and in a way you could say Chesley like had everything going for her, but yet clearly didn't, had mental illness. And so what Krisha brought out to the fore was how we need to acknowledge, people can be struggling, and we need to keep our eyes open for the signs and reach out to them when they're struggling and offer the support they need. So that's all. With that context, I really do think if Miss USA needs to step down for mental health, go for it, do it. And you know, uh, and if anyone out there has mental health needs or is contemplating suicide, I got to mention the hotline is 1-800-273-TALK, and get the support you need. As for the organization of Miss USA, this is certainly fascinating. I wonder if it's going to go the way of the Victoria's Secret fashion show, like it went away for a bit. They acknowledged there was a problem. It's a problem that we at Verily have been trying to call out. Unrealistic standards of beauty, and the problems that can have, and objectification in general. The Miss USA, those kinds of pageants, they have some problems, and I wonder if this is like a sign of the times.
Right? Could it be the beginning of the end? They got two uncrowned heads now. So
Yeah. And standing up for mental health is a good thing. Speaking up for mental health and stepping away from objectifying is a good direction culturally. I hope our culture continues in that direction, aside from that individual story.
And finally, for some positive news, a couple of teens in New Orleans, that rhymes, who have solved a 2,000-year-old math puzzle. Nobody had been able to do it, and they did it. The Pythagorean theorem is one of the oldest equations out there. Like, they knew about it like in Babylon and Iron Age India, but nobody had ever been able to solve it using trigonometry. You could solve it with geometry and algebra, but not trig. And it was considered impossible, and Calcea and Nicaea did it.
Woo!
Woohoo! Go girls. So they received the key to the city of New Orleans, and they are now, they've entered the math history books.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, so apparently they solved this maybe with one proof a year ago. Well, now it's 5 proofs, and now is when the city of New Orleans gave the key, and they're starting out in college. So way to go, ladies. Congratulations. And this is just so fascinating because they in interviews aren't even like, hey, I'm going to become a mathematician. They just were doing the assignment. And I'm so impressed with you ladies, and I wish you all the best in whatever you're called to do, whatever your passion is, because that was just your brilliance. Wow. Incredible. And it just is a reminder of how challenging ourselves is always good. That's fascinating.
Right. Don't assume that everything has already been, figured out. You can still be an 18-year-old figuring stuff out for the world.
Way to go, girls. Kelsey and Nikia. This about wraps up as you go into your weekend. Hopefully you have some notes from while you were out that can add a little bit to your weekend conversations. Oh, there was one really funny quote, and I don't know if this will be a thing where we'll just choose a quote, but this one just cracked us up. Okay, Maggie.
So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president as an independent. He had an interview in the New York Times, and he told them he had a worm in his brain that ate a portion of it. He didn't indicate, or at least I haven't seen where he indicated which portion. was eaten by the worm. But then on social media, he offered to eat 5 more brain worms and still beat President Trump and President Biden in a debate. I feel confident of the result, even with a 6-worm handicap.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I do not laugh at anyone's actual handicap, but this quote about having a worm in your brain is just, and then and it ate
a portion of it. Which
Lord,
portion?
One only wishes, that doesn't happen before I'm 6 feet under. But it just made me think, oh gosh, well, the internet is eating, maybe not a portion of my brain, I hope, but certainly time. If you need some more positive time, uplifting reading offline, don't forget, you can always subscribe. And actually, this week, double check when it ends, but there's a special Mother's Day 25% off deal going on. So make sure you check that up in our newsletter and social media if you haven't seen it already. And if you haven't renewed, you could use that now to renew your subscription. The summer issue is going to press. Super exciting. And anyone who signed up for a subscription when we first came back to print, that subscription is up because we have completed our first year of print issues. Woohoo!
Yay!
So now's the time. Whether or not you're a mother, we're all celebrating Mother's Day because we all came from a mother. So we're glad you're here.
Yep.
And we want to support you. Thanks for listening, all, and have a good weekend. This was your voice message while you were out.